Um, Before we get started, this is the first page, right? Yep. Let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Alicia Bergeron, and when I call your name, please confirm that you are here by verifying that you are present. Starting with the commissioners, Patrick
I am present.
and John.
Present.
And we are still waiting on Sandy. She's going to be a little bit late to this meeting. For staff, we have Leah.
Present.
Okay. And for speakers, we have Tom Lewis from the Grafton and Upton Railroad.
I don't see him on here yet.
Okay. For 109 Creeper Hill Road, we have David, Katie, and Jacqueline.
Present.
Okay. For 19 George Hill Road, we have Peter, Lisa, Paul, and Paul.
We just Chris McClure will be on
Okay.
line.
Okay. From 8 and 100 Pine Street, we have Jean, April, and Matt.
Jean's here.
Okay.
Yes, present. Thank you.
And for 11 Wheeler Road, we have Stanley and Jude.
I don't think they're on yet either.
Okay. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom, consistent with the public hearing advertisements, which were distributed prior to Governor Baker's cancellation of the state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to COVID-19. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will invite each commissioner by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After the commissioners have spoken, I will allow public comments typed by participants in the chat feature. Anything that is typed in the chat feature will need to be addressed to everyone, not any sole individual. Public comments will be followed by commission and applicant responses. And finally, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. And since it is 7:07, we can start with the Lake Wildwood Aquatic Invasive Management Proposal.
Sure. I am going to promote Bill Taylor to a panelist. He's from Upton.
Okay.
So that he can speak to this a little bit, and I can pull up the visual as well.
Can I go ahead and start now?
Sure, go for it.
All right. So my name is Bill Taylor. I work for the Upton Department of Public Works, and we're about to submit a notice of intent for a limited ecological restoration project to the town of Upton for Lake Wildwood. It's for an aquatic management program to treat invasive species in Lake Wildwood. The issue is that Lake Wildwood is about 37 acres, of which about 4,500 square feet are in Grafton. And so I come before you this evening to find out whether or not you want me to submit a notice of intent for the 4,500 square feet for the Grafton portion of Lake Wildwood, or if, perhaps we don't need to do that. So that's why I'm here. The picture that's on the screen now shows all of Lake Wildwood. The lines in white are the Grafton border, and you can see the small section that is in Grafton. And I have an inset that shows that area, which is about 4,500 square feet. There are clearly there'd be some abutters. They will be notified. I did get that information from the Grafton Assessor's Office. And then this area, like Wildwood and some of the surrounding shore, are priority and estimated habitat. I have requested a MESA review from the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. I'm waiting on that still as well. well, before submitting the notice of intent. I think that's essentially it. Oh, I was going to mention one other thing. The treatment is for fanwort and variable milfoil, and it will likely be sonar herbicide, and it will be a company by the name of Water and Wetland will do the treatment. There was a company formed recently by former employees of Solitude, like Solitude. I forget the whole name, but they did a lot of work for us in the past. Any questions?
Leah, I'm assuming this is similar to what we've done in other waters in the town.
So I actually haven't been through the permitting on any of the projects we've done on the lakes. Well, for this kind of permitting.
Okay.
We do have one. We have the 5-year management plan for Lake Quinsigamon, and that one did a full NOI. But this is a little different because it's just a little corner of a lake that's mostly in another town. I do have a question for Bill, though. Is there technically like an owner of this pond? Is that the town of Upton?
Yes, it's a little bit unusual in that the land under Lake Wildwood was sold or given to, I forget exactly, the town of Upton in the 40s or 50s. So we have a deed for the land under Lake Wildwood.
Okay, so that just doesn't include this little corner, I guess.
I imagine it does, though the deed itself doesn't identify any of the land under Lake Wildwood as being in Grafton, and it's possible that the acreage of the lake changed. It's a lake that was created by an impoundment. So there's a dam that in Upton that's responsible for keeping the water there. As with most lakes like this, or a lot of lakes like this in Upton, it was created to dam water for a mill.
So one thing that I can do is check with town council, because I've been talking to her already about ownership of lakes and ponds, looking forward for us to take on some projects similar to this. So I can get her take on whether she feels a full filing needs to happen in Grafton as well. But regardless, we're at least being notified of the one occurring in Upton. So that's a start. If you guys had any questions or concerns you wanted to raise at this point, I can go back and check that box off with town council and circle back to Bill, unless there's anything else you guys wanted to raise.
Okay. I think that would be the best approach, Leah, especially because Sandy's not here, and I feel like she may have more insight just because she's been on the commission a lot longer than any of the rest of us. But let's go through the commissioners and just check. So, John, did you have any questions or concerns on this?
No, I think the idea that Leah floated out of checking with town council about the ownership is important, but I don't have any concerns.
Okay. Patrick?
Yeah, I think if Leah can check on that, I don't have any major concerns with doing this, and it's, since it's a tiny corner, but whatever we whatever we need to meet and need to do would be good to know.
I'll just mention one other thing. I think the closest residence to that point in Grafton is about 1,600 feet away. And it's if you show the map, it's a development just on the other side of the Upton border from our Dairy Drive development. It's got a bunch of, I believe, flower street names. Yeah, it's in the lower left-hand corner. There's on the other side of somewhere in there, one of those. Actually, you know what? I put the Grafton line in the wrong place. That development is in Grafton. So the upper right-hand corner of that development is the closest residence to the small piece of Lake Wildwood that's in Grafton. The other development there, the little lollipop-shaped to the right of that, that's Dairy Drive in Grafton, or in Upton, excuse me. So that line really, the Grafton line is really the small yellow line between that lollipop development and the squiggly one.
Okay, I think it makes sense that Leah, you check with town council, but aside from that, I know we've done similar things as part of other projects. So I think that we're comfortable with it as long as town council is comfortable with it, and just let us know if we need to circle back.
Will do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking me first. That's very helpful.
No problem. Thank you, Bill. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
So this has brought us to 7:15. So we can open the first public hearing, which is going to be the Grafton and Upton Railroad. So I'll open that now. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability to review wetlands delineation along the Grafton and Upton Railroad right-of-way in Grafton.
So I don't think Tom Lewis is on here still. He had one at our meeting, either the last meeting or the one before, and we had to continue it just till later that evening because he was double booked. I
Yeah.
don't know if that might be the case here, if you guys want to do that.
Okay.
And we could check again later.
Okay, that's fine. So someone just needs to request a continuance to later in this evening.
Do we
With a
just need to
motion.
make a motion? Do we need a time, can't talk, specific time, or
Why don't we just pick 8? We have scheduled hearings through 7:45, so we'll try 8.
motion to continue the Grafton Upton Railroad right of way to 8 p.m. tonight.
Second.
Okay, Patrick motions, John seconds. All those in favor, so John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I am also a yes, so we will revisit this one at 8 o'clock. Okay. So we have about 15 minutes. Leah, do we have time, do you think, for the Fitzpatrick Road?
Yeah, you can go ahead and continue that one.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection, oh goodness, bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit for the replacement of a culvert on Fitzpatrick Road over Cronin Brook. This applicant has requested a continuance to the July meeting.
Which is the 13th, if I forgot to write that in there.
Okay, so we just need a motion to continue this hearing till the July 13th meeting.
Motion to continue to the July 13th meeting.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Patrick made a motion, John seconded. So we'll do a roll call vote. John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I am also a yes, so this hearing will be continued to the July meeting. Let's try to get through some of the actions while we have time. So let's do the meeting minutes first. They looked fine to me.
I make a motion to approve the May 18th meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, John has made a motion, Patrick seconds. Now we'll do a roll call. John,
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, so those are good. The next thing we need to do is vote on the amended meeting schedule. We had to change the meeting from September 14th to September 21st, so that we could have a proper meeting room, because as of next month, we have to return to in-person meetings in our standard conference room, unless legislation is passed, which will be interesting because I don't think John's ever been to a meeting in the conference room before.
I've attended one, but I've never been on the commission as part of that. So
I'll have to
Um,
make sure I have your nameplate then.
I'm fine with a paper nameplate if that's until we get the official one gold printed up there. So
Is everyone okay with that? Do you guys want to just vote to adopt those amended, the amended
Make it-
schedule?
make a motion to adopt the amended 2021 meeting schedule to move the 9/14 meeting to 9/21, as long as it's in copacetic with the legislation.
Second.
Okay, so John made a motion, Patrick seconds. So we'll do a roll call. John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I am also a yes, that's totally fine. So that's all set. Leah, we just had a comment come in from Shauna from 8 George Hill Road. She wanted to know if her comments and questions came through the web form today.
Not before I left for the day. I do have notes from the conversation we had on the phone that I was going to cover during that hearing.
Okay. So Shauna, I'm assuming you can hear this. And Leah has your notes. And then what you can do is when we get to the hearing, you can always type them in the chat feature and we can see everything that's on there and we can discuss it at that time as well. Okay, so the next action item is the certificate of compliance for the Providence Road Commons.
Yeah, this one, so I have this out for peer review of their as-built plans compared to the plans that we approved. I don't have that peer review back yet. However, it is recommended that we always take action on a COC request. So rather than in the past, we've taken no action to just table it to next time. I'm thinking we should just take a formal vote saying that we're rescheduling the action item so that technically we took some action.
That sounds good. So does someone want to make a motion to reschedule the request for certificate of compliance till the next meeting?
I'll motion to reschedule this request for a certificate of compliance until our next meeting on July 13th.
Second.
Okay, Patrick made a motion, John seconds. So now we'll do a vote. John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I am also a yes, so that's fine. We will discuss that at the next meeting. That brings us through all of the action items. And we still have 7 minutes, right? Because the next one's at 7:30. Do you think, can we get through the Elmwood Street in 7 minutes, Leah, do you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
That should be fairly quick.
Okay, then let's discuss the potential violation at 52 Elmwood.
Okay, I will pull that up on a map as I give some background information. So the property at 52 Elmwood has the train tracks running behind it. Hang on, here it comes. Okay, so this is 52 Elmwood. Train tracks are behind the house as well as the river down here. They have installed some fencing lately in the recent past that falls within the outer 100 of this riverfront area. In the back of the property line, the fence would fall within riverfront. The fence surrounds the whole parcel, however, so this front property line as well. So the concern was raised from a neighbor that they have seen frequently wildlife travel, like across Elmwood, wherever they're coming from, through these backyards, and then this drops off. There's a pretty steep slope here down to the river. Whoops, sorry, wrong thing. This one. So these critters have been seen coming across Elmwood through the backyards down this slope, assuming heading towards the river. So I did go out. I have a photo here of what the fencing looks like. It's like a wire mesh, so it's not a solid fence, and it's at the top of that drop off. So I did make clear to the neighbor that this fence line in the front here that abuts them isn't technically within commission jurisdiction. The line out back would be, which I can show you again. So any fence along the back here would be within the riverfront area, but anything along the front falls outside of it. So the regulations do have a provision that allows for fencing in the riverfront if it's not obstructing wildlife. But we're sort of in a weird territory here because we have reports of obstructing wildlife, but it's not the fence that's in our jurisdiction. So that being said, I didn't know if the commission wanted something like the fencing. I mean, in the past for riverfront, we've had fences be raised up 6 inches off the ground to let animals sneak underneath. Obviously, that's not all inclusive for all animals. And with the fence being up front here, and that's where the reports are of blocking the critters, I didn't know if that was something you guys wanted to require in the back, or you know, do you want them to have a retroactive filing for this fence and we can explore it further that way? I did talk to the owner. They were unable to attend this evening, but I told them I would get the ball rolling on the conversation and let them know where we stood.
So I feel like if we have them raise the fence in the back, like we've had other people do before, then it's just gonna create this situation where the animals are gonna get trapped in their property.
True.
Which isn't gonna necessarily resolve the situation of cutting the animals off from their habitat.
Right.
Would the owner be open to raising a portion of the fence in the front of the property as well to provide a corridor for the animals? Has that been discussed at all?
I have not asked that question. I certainly can.
Okay, because I feel like the reason that we would want them to adjust the location of their fence in the back portion of the property would be to allow for you know, animals to go back and forth from wherever else they are to that space, and without having, I mean, since that's such a huge parcel, without having the space in the front for them to get through, it's not gonna, there's not gonna be any point in raising it up in the back.
I can certainly ask them that question.
Okay. Patrick or John, do you guys?
So I'm a little bit confused. I'm reading the notes, Leah, that you had typed up, and I saw the picture of the fence and I see the map. So the fencing is on the front lot line, which is apparently outside of our jurisdiction, or outside of the jurisdiction of the
You're
statute?
correct. So what would fall under our jurisdiction is the 200-foot riverfront area, which I have roughly measured out here. Obviously, I'm not exact at 221. But with this being the river in the back, riverfront extends 200 feet from that. So basically, where they have fencing in the rear falls within the riverfront. They've fenced the whole parcel, so that comes around here as well. This is the fence where neighbors have said they've seen wildlife come across their yard and then down this slope here towards the river. So the wildlife travel reports are coming from this line, but this line is what would be in our jurisdiction.
But the fence is actually on the front line behind those properties, 31, 32, 30, that line of properties right there, correct?
It's on both. Yeah, it's all inclusive
Oh,
of the
it's
lot. Yeah.
wrapped the property.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I have any other questions then.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
Did they put the fence up for a specific reason? Did they say anything about that?
Yeah, they said that they put it up to resolve issues of dumping on the property.
Okay. So that could still be resolved potentially by just lifting the fence up a little bit to create a corridor. What we're asking them to do wouldn't defeat the purpose of them putting the fence up. They weren't trying to keep their dogs in or something like that.
Yeah, it seems like it might be an agreeable compromise. I'll have
Okay.
to talk to them and let you guys know.
Okay, can we check with them and see if they're willing to kind of do that and then revisit it at our next meeting?
Absolutely. Let me just get out of screen sharing and make sure that they didn't hop on tonight, but I don't
Okay.
think they planned to.
I was going to say there's a lot of comments in the chat, but it all seems to be tied to another. There's a lot of comments in the chat that looks like Sean has put in there,
yeah, I don't think it's about this here.
but it's not. It doesn't appear to be for this one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any of the names associated with this tonight. So let me have that dialogue in preparation for our next meeting.
Okay, do we need to take any action, or since it was just a discussion item, are we good with just leaving it?
You're good.
Okay, perfect. So it's 7:31, so we can move on to the next public hearing. So the next one is going to be for 109 Creeper Hill Road. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Grafton Wetland Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, an application for Grafton Wetlands Protection and Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permits for the expansion of a building at 109 Creeper Hill Road.
Yes, thank you very much. Quick background there is this is a facility that takes in food waste and converts it to animal feed. The building that we want to expand was burnt and majorly damaged in the 90s. And we seek to restore it and expand it. And my understanding is that, so we submitted a notice of intent. Yes, correct. We submitted a notice of intent, and the reason that we are going through Concom here is because a portion of this building is inside the 200-foot riverfront area. So I'll pause there and ask for feedback or comments. I understand, Leah, that there is a third-party review coming this week. Yeah, like I said, I'll pause there.
Yeah, we do. We are awaiting peer review. But David, if you could just take us through what it is that you're proposing within resource areas.
Okay. So I'll start at the beginning. The facility takes in food waste that comes in on trucks and processes it by mixing it and blending it and then drying it into animal feed. The building that we're proposing to put in this, so that's the square that overlaps this 200-foot riverfront area, is a dedicated food waste receiving station. We anticipate this building to be between 6 and 8 feet deep, into which dump trucks can directly dump food waste material. What that allows us to do, this addition, or the question is like, why add the building at all, right? It's because by adding that space, we ensure that material is continuously moving. In the current setup, which, without this building, food material is dumped on the floor and moved around by skid loaders, and there's instances where it stays stagnant. And so by expanding, if you will, the active footprint of the factory or of the process line, you are able to much more safely and also with much more control keep the material moving in order to meet, I guess, the throughput that is permitted by the DEP. should I maybe give a pause there? I can give comment to what specifically is going on with that building in terms of the work in the riverfront area, if that helps.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Gotcha. So what we want to put in this, the work that we want to do here is, first of all, remove above grade, partially burned, broken for 20 years now steel structure. And what we want to put in its place is erect a pre-engineered metal building of similar style and feel as the other two that are to the north, and have the three buildings communicate with each other. So the work entails excavation of the site, pouring in engineering, pouring in a foundation, a concrete slab, and erecting a structure, again, pre-engineered metal building, roughly 30 feet high. Stormwater, yeah, I should address also the Caltech. So in order to address the additional water discharge, we are upgrading to the northwest here. We are upgrading the existing drainage system with a Caltech recharger, and that is going to be engineered to take. You know, what we're doing there is upgrading the existing system to handle the extra capacity.
And just a note that I'll add for you guys is that the parking that you see layout is conceptual only. So that's not additional scope. We're just looking at the building, and the stormwater is going to this Caltech up here.
Yes, ma'am.
John or Patrick, do you guys have any questions or comments on this one?
I can take nerdy ones.
So this is replacing an existing structure. Is it expanding in size or keeping the same footprint?
The footprint of the old building that burned down is roughly half of what you see here. There's an existing site, an existing condition plan, which is maybe on the prior page of this document. Yeah, there you go. So the dashed line here shows what the existing steel frame footprint looks like.
Okay. I'm not sure I have any other comments right now, Alicia.
Okay. John, do you have any comments? I know we're still waiting for quite a few things before we can really move forward with this, but
Yeah,
do you have any?
I was a little confused as to why I see the railroad tracks back there. So there's actually is it the wetlands on the other side of the railroad or the river? There's a river on the other side of the railroad tracks there.
Yes, sir, that is correct. There is
back right up to Wyman. Wyman Gordon is on the other side of that, correct?
Yes, Wyman Gordon is on the other side. There is indeed a railroad track that borders the south of this property line. It is on a 10-foot berm, and yeah, this is a great shot. This is how it looks like.
Okay, no, that helps. I thought it was on the other side, on the Lake Quinsigamon side there, and that's why I wasn't sure where I was looking, but I'm clear now. Is there going to be any type of, with the proximity to this potential building and the wetland area or the riverfront area, is there going to be any kind of I mean, if these are trucks dumping it into this pre-engineered metal structure, is there any control as if that trash can, or the food waste can come out and work its way into the, like how do they control that when it's dumping it into the actual building?
Right, that's a good question, right? If I understand correctly, the concern is to make sure that food waste and food juice or food waste juice doesn't kind of make its way in, right? If anything, adding this, right, exactly. So this structure makes sure that that doesn't happen, right? It's a concern of the existing operation, or it may have been a concern of the existing operation, and adding this building and expanding the space means that you can actually keep material moving. That is key to make sure there is no stagnation and collection of fluids. So there is, they don't dump directly on the floor. They dump onto a series of distribution hoppers and moving belts, and food waste juice, if you will, does not collect. That is what we want to do in this building.
Okay. That helps. I'm just wondering if But again, we're awaiting peer review for some of the other items, but again, that would be my concern, is keeping what's getting dumped away from, you know,
Absolutely.
these lines. So no other questions.
Okay, and that, John, your question was my exact question. Just preventing like food waste and associated liquids and grease from getting into the wetlands area, but it sounds like that's part of the reason they're putting the new building in.
This is more easy, if I may add to that. Dave actually has a nice 3D picture, actually shows what the intent is, and basically what's happening right now is that the food is getting dumped sometimes underground, and I think by adding this building, it would be contained into the containers, and it's not on the ground. It's actually moving directly over the belts into the processing, which away from the wetland and the riverfront area. Again, this is Mo Azizi. I'm the engineer, Rick. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself.
Okay, that makes sense. Do we have a copy of that image, or Leah, have you seen that?
I do not think I have that.
Would that be something that you'd be able to send us before the next meeting, just so we can take a look at it?
Do it right after this meeting.
Okay, perfect. So it looks like we're still awaiting for the DEP number and their comments, as well as the peer review.
The DP number has actually already been given.
Okay.
I believe I notified. Yep, sorry.
As of when?
Last week, maybe Thursday.
I don't think it came to me. Unusually, I will circle back on that one.
Would it be helpful for me to forward you that notification?
Sure.
All right, I will do that immediately, and also picture the 3D rendering of the use of that space.
Thank you.
Okay, and so we're still waiting on, Leah, just make sure I'm correct. We're still waiting on DEP comments as well as the peer review?
So if DEP had comments on this number that came through, then I will have them when I get that email. We are waiting on peer review. And I did just want to double check with David if this covers the scope of work for what's within commission jurisdiction. Nothing else has come up in the meantime.
Not to my, I'm not sure I understand the question exactly.
I just want to make sure we've covered your scope of work within resource areas.
Yes, we have.
Additional.
Correct. There's no other work at all being done in the resource areas.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for this one.
Okay, so we're gonna need to continue this to the next meeting, just waiting for that additional information. So we just need a motion for that continuance.
Hold on, we need to open to the public.
Oh, sorry, yep, I forgot. Does anyone have any public comments that they could type into the chat feature?
I have a quick question, if I may, before we close. The planning board yesterday indicated that they are drafting a decision for their 28th meeting. I guess this commission needs to inform them before they can approve the work. Is that correct? Or what is the workflow there?
I believe it's 2 individual processes. I don't think they will wait on us.
Understood. All right, thank you.
So no one has typed anything into the chat. So
not for this one, no.
Not for this one, correct. So John or Patrick, you guys don't have anything additional to add?
Not right now.
No. So David,
Okay.
do you want to request a continuance?
Yes, I hereby request a continuance. Do I also have to do it in writing like the planning board?
That would be helpful.
I will do so. I'll email that to you, Leah, separately. Thank you. Or Alicia, if you prefer.
Nope, Leah's the contact.
All right.
That's perfect.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Also,
Just
very pleased to meet you.
Just for clarity, that will be July 13th.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so now he's requested a continuance.
Motion to continue this to our next meeting, July 13th.
Second,
Okay, Patrick's made a motion, John seconds. Now we'll take a vote. John,
yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I'm also a yes, so we will revisit this on our July 13th meeting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hey, team. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank
You
you.
also, thank you. Okay, so we have 1 minute until we can open the next one. So we will
So
just wait
ju-
patiently.
Just to be clear, it looks like everything in the chat from Shauna and Mariah appears all to be for this next one. Unless I'm misreading that, but it looks like it's all for 19 George Hill Road.
Correct.
There also appear to be referencing things they've submitted on the website that I don't think we have. So I don't know if
So
they
they-
want to.
Yeah. It looks like Shauna typed quite a bit in the chat. Mariah, if you have questions, you can start putting them in the chat now, and we'll read them when we get to that portion of the meeting. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mariah. She said she will submit hers to the chat. So it's 7:45, so we can go ahead and open the hearing, and then we'll hear what the applicant has to say, and then we'll go through and get to your concerns that are in the chat feature. So, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, an application for Grafton Wetlands Protection and Stormwater Management Bylaw permits for the construction of a single-family house at 19 George Hill Road. So, Chris, are you here for this?
Yes, I am. Good evening. This is Chris McClure Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of Paul and Candace Silverberg, currently residents of the town of Grafton. And they recently purchased property on 19 George Hill Road. It's 10.5 acres of land in order to construct a single-family residence, along with some infrastructure for to pursue the passion of raising horses and enjoying the livelihood around horses. The land is a 1/4 mile south of the intersection with Merriam Road. It's located in an agricultural residential zoning district. It's bordered by residential properties on the north, south, and east sides in the Grafton land, the Upton land trust to the south. Areas of consideration is that the neighborhood is within an ACEC, which is the Misco, Warren, and Whitehall watersheds, which was a factor during our stormwater management.
I'm not really getting a lot of this. Is the audio?
Yeah, your audio seems to be kind of jarbled. I don't know if you could either switch audio or potentially shut the video off. Sometimes that can help.
With this headset.
Can you hear me now?
Much better. Much
Oh,
better.
great.
Perfect.
Would you like me to start over, or?
Yeah, that would probably
Yeah.
be best. We had some people comment in the chat they couldn't hear you.
Sure. Okay. So again, Chris McClure Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of Paul and Candace Silverberg. They're current residents of the town of Grafton, and they recently purchased 10.5 acres of land at 19 George Hill Road to construct a single-family residence, as well as some horse infrastructure. They are horse enthusiasts. The land is a 1/4 mile south of the intersection with Merriam Road. It's located in the agricultural/residential zoning district. It's bordered by residential properties on the north, south, and east sides, and the Upton Land Trust to the south. The area of consideration is the neighborhood is within the ACEC, which is the Misco, Warren, and Whitehall watersheds, which was a factor during our stormwater management design for the property. In the past, the property has been issued an RDA relative to soil testing for potential development. Previous prospective buyers have backed away given the magnitude of the site work required to develop the site. But given Mr. Silverberg's experience as a site contractor, he's in the business and his family is horse enthusiasts. They were excited to present this project to the Conservation Commission. So the property was delineated by Ecotech, and you can see that on sheet C2. The outstanding resource areas were delineated. As I stated before, it involves the construction of a driveway, a 5-bedroom house with a pool, associated septic system, well, a horse barn, sand area, paddock, and a horse run, just associated activities with raising horses. Stormwater infrastructure as part of this project includes the construction of 5 detention basins, sediment forebay, a deep sump catch basin, which acts as an area drain, 2 3-sided culverts to facilitate getting over the intermittent streams. The driveway is a standard 12-foot wide driveway. And the location of that driveway was chosen due to the existing cart path that existed on the property. And the only area that we are going to be within the 25 foot and actually within the wetland area is the 2 stream crossings that are going to be constructed. And they are the area that would provide for the least amount of impact. Yes, exactly. So if you would like, I'll just describe the stormwater controls starting at the access from George Hill Road. As we come into the property, you see that we have 2 basins. So basically from the road to the first stream crossing, it's approximately about 400 feet. Water will be directed from the driveway to a water quality swale on the south side of the driveway into detention basin number 2, which has an outlet control structure connected to detention basin number 1 on the north side of the driveway. Yes. And then if we continue west, I'm sorry, if we continue east, then we're looking at the 2 stream crossings that were designed. They are 3-sided box culverts. They were designed to meet the Mass Stream Crossing standards. And so the crossings were designed with the bank width in this area equals the width of the wetlands. And they were designed at 1.2 times the bank width. Required is 9.6 feet, and these culverts are 10 feet wide. And they were designed to meet the openness ratio, which in this case was 0.82, and we're providing 1.0. And the design was done so it does not impact any of the, it spans those wetlands, it spans that bank. So if we proceed up towards the house area, you can see that we have another basin there. It says basin number 3, which the driveway is sloped down to the south. Water would be directed into a water quality swale, which would be picked up in that into that basin number 3. Going further to the east, up towards the house, you'll see the basin number 4. That picks up water from the north side of the driveway, in addition to picking up some flow from an area drain. If you look right adjacent across the driveway from the proposed garage, you will see an ADS riser with a solid cover. that is going to be a deep, that's a deep sump catch basin, and that's picking up stormwater that would come off of the driveway going from the house up to the horse barn. Okay. From the house to the horse barn, it's collected in the water quality system and directed to that area drain, which splits the flow, as I said, to that basin number 4, in addition to the subsurface Caltech infiltration system that's in front of the house. Lastly, if we go to the area, the proposed area by the barn, the stormwater is collected in 2 ways. The stormwater is directed to basin number 5, which has a barracuda treatment. It's a sediment treatment unit, and once it goes through that sedimentation basin, it'll be discharged to the west of that basin down into the forested area there. I know there's a lot. The plans are fairly busy. The orientation of this lot, the width and the length of the lot, tends to leave a lot of as far as design and our scale, but we have provided a stormwater report, and the stormwater controls were designed so that there's no increase in the post-development of this project, and the stormwater design meets the standards set forth in the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. So with that said, I would be happy to entertain questions, or if anybody has anything else specifically you'd like to talk about, I'm here for you.
Do we want to start at the top? We go through the commissioners first, Alicia, or start in the chat?
Leah, is there an order that we necessarily have to do it?
I don't think you have to. We just usually do you guys first.
Okay. Let's start with the chat, just because some of our questions may be covered by the chat, and there's so much in there that I'd rather just read through it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
Just because there is a lot here. Okay, so the first questions in the chat are from, I'm going to totally butcher your last name, Shauna, and I apologize. Shauna Cardenas from 8 George Hill Road. And so her questions, so I'll just read through because she wrote it in the form of almost like an email. She's writing to urge the Conservation Commission to review this application in greater detail before making a decision. If this project is approved as represented today, there will be massive irreversible impact to wetlands, to pristine natural habitats and corridors, and stormwater drainage in a crucial watershed. I am deeply concerned about a host of issues that fall under your jurisdiction and will detail those below. Conservatively, more than 75% of the total parcel will be disrupted and forever altered, essentially terraformed into a single-family home with an in-ground swimming pool, horse facilities that appear to be commercially minded. According to the plans, this project comes exactly to the 25-foot wetland border in many locations, and much of it is within the 50-foot zone. 2 streams will be directly altered, as well as the grading and asphalt paving of a long and steep driveway up to the top with a turnaround and many extra square footage around the house, barn, and riding area. The grade climbs more than 100 feet from the road, and the lot is wooded. Obviously, it will require heavy logging and grading to prepare the site for construction. Many retention ponds and swales and other man-made solutions must be built to capture the newly created stormwater runoff. I urge the commission to get an independent engineering review of the stormwater management plan. Altering such a significant amount of virgin landscape will significantly change the flow of water. Massive amounts of acreage will be covered in asphalt paving, roof areas for home and barn, sand riding area, horse paddocks and trails, lawn and gardens. What happens if design fails? How much extra stormwater could come down the hill? What might be the contaminants, horse manure, lawn and farm garden chemicals, residue from asphalt paving and organic debris in retention ponds, potentially human septic waste? This parcel is located within the ACEC here in Grafton in very close proximity to the Misco Brook. Any overflow from this site will quickly impact the head of an important watershed. Also, how might this extra stormwater impact other properties? My property borders a flood zone, and I am concerned that with continued destruction of the natural habitat and watershed, there could be many unwanted consequences. This site needs to be reevaluated for stormwater management by an independent TOW.
Alicia, do we want to pause there so Chris can maybe start to address some of those concerns, or we can talk about some of those
Yeah,
concerns?
absolutely. I just wanted to get through the whole thing rather than breaking it up.
Sure.
So
Wanna keep
Chris, do
going?
you want to start by addressing some of those concerns? I can
Sure.
go back through them individually. I just wanted to make sure that her entire statement got read to the public.
Sure, that's understandable.
Okay.
So I would say that let's talk about the disturbance area. There's 10.5 acres of land. The disturbance is going to be under 3. So that's not a large of a percentage as was discussed in the comments. Additionally, if you take a look at these plans, you can see that we have put a lot of time and effort into this evaluation, into these stormwater management best management practices, and the stormwater report would show, based upon these best management practices, that we are going to be able to control the stormwater on this site. As this site is in a ACEC, as was discussed, we were required to address or handle twice the normal runoff that would need to be handled within a standard residential development. So we do have a robust system here, and we're confident in it. And this is what we do for a living. And as the owner is somebody in this business, and a lifelong resident in this community, as well as a on-call firefighter in the community for over 15 years. This isn't somebody that's going to come in and blow apart this land without taking extraordinary effort and care in the development.
I'm just going through to make sure we're covering everything that she has. Is the whole site going to be regraded? She says the grade climbs more than 100 feet from the road.
The whole site, basically, if you were to walk the site, you can see that there is a grade change getting up to the flat area where they would like to put the house. The areas that we did choose to develop the house is to minimize the actual grading on the site, because that obviously has an effect on cost for development. So we try to utilize this topography to in the best interest of the homeowners. And again, as you get to flat section where the home would be, then you get up to the second section where it makes the most sense to put their horse barn and have the areas where their horses would reside.
Okay. And at this time, is that they're just going to be using it for their personal horses. There's not going to be any commercial. They're not going to board horses or riding lessons or any of that sort of stuff.
No, again, they have been lifelong owners of a horse. They currently are boarding. They have a single horse that's 18 years old. They probably will be getting a horse that is a little bit younger, but there are no plans to make this a commercial entity whatsoever. And I don't know if Mr. Silverberg is on, but he could confirm that as well. It's a hobby, and they're thrilled to be able to practice that hobby and maintain their horses on their own property. They have something they haven't been able to do, since they've owned a horse. So.
Okay. I'm just going through and seeing. I'm just checking to see if Shauna, did he cover everything that all of your concerns? Do you have additional specific questions? If you do, could you please type them into the chat, just because the format of the way you sent them in, I just want to make sure that he kind of provided you with answers for everything that you were looking for specifics on.
So if I can hop in for a second while she types,
Yeah.
I do have a couple other things. I talked to Shauna earlier on the phone. So I have a couple notes from our conversation from earlier. One was she asked if this project is going to be bonded to ensure that the site isn't disturbed and abandoned. And this is a practice that the commission has used in the past with large sites like this. So that's something for the commission to think about, as well as she was wondering if there was a way to ensure that the stormwater infrastructure is taken care of going forward. Like what if the homeowner doesn't have the funding to maintain these things into the future?
Chris, can you address either of those issues? Or those questions or their concerns there?
Sure. I mean, I think that, based on what we see in other communities, this is no different than any other. This happens to be what we would call an estate lot. And it should be dealt with as any residential development would be. He has to, although he's going to be disturbing over 40,000 square feet, it does trigger a NIPDES and a stormwater pollution prevention plan. It has to meet in addition to the Mass DP Wetland Protection Act, the commission's going to issue an order of conditions. This order of conditions is an encumbrance on their deed, and all of these requirements need to be met, and they're under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, just like any project. So I don't think that there is any additional requirements that would be needed. And in addition to given the fact that the individual is a lifelong Grafton resident and a on-call firefighter for the past 14 years, he's gonna stand up and he's gonna do the right thing. That's a given.
Okay.
I might just want to point out before we continue so there's a lot of comments in here about some of the buffer zones and everything. Obviously that goes into the plan review, the peer review that the CONSCOM has requested. So those will be addressed. I'm assuming the plan review is that review is ongoing right now, or have we received any of that back, Leah?
So I don't have the ball rolling yet on the peer review to Jeff. I wanted to get your guys' take on it. I can certainly get that ball rolling tomorrow.
Okay. I don't know if Alicia, if that's something we want to push or not. I just think with some of these comments would be addressed by a peer review.
I definitely think I'm still like scrolling through them and trying to get them all bundled. Yeah, so we will have a peer review done so that will also address a lot of the questions that you had, Shauna. I'm not seeing Shauna adding anything additional. I don't know. Is she still on, Leah?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. It looks like a lot of the residents had similar concerns to each other. So, Shauna, we are going to be having this reevaluated by our peer reviewer, so they will provide additional information in terms of if they see that what the design is adequate. And this is going to end up being continued to our next meeting, just because there's quite a few things that we're missing that we need before we can proceed. So you will have an opportunity again at the next meeting to add questions or concerns.
Leah, will these chat questions be captured in the record at all, or should they be encouraged to make sure they email them in so that they're on file?
So it sounds like they did email earlier. I think it was just after I left the office for the day. So I will be capturing those as long as they were emailed tomorrow, and they will go on the project page, just like any other public comment.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that these are kind of captured.
It might be good to point out that if we were to continue this, if this was to be continued to 7/13, it would be an in-person meeting.
Yes.
They could come and voice their concerns in the in-person meeting.
Yep. So now that we've addressed all of Shauna's questions, I'm going to move on to Mariah Cause. Mariah, can you just type your address? Oh, she's from 13 George Hill Road. Just so that's on the record. And moving on, sorry about this, there's just a lot of scrolling. Okay, so her questions are bulleted. So her first question is the construction timeline. How long will there be construction happening? Will it happen in phases or all at once? They're concerned about noise level, light pollution while living next to a construction area. So we can go through hers one at a time. So.
Okay. So obviously, we would do this in phases. You know, the first phase would be from the access road up into the stream crossing. We're assuming that we could get this done in a construction season. You know, so obviously we're running. You know, I don't know when your next meeting is, but it's June now. July, he might start the project and work as far as he can into the construction season. And as far as noise and there would be no real light pollution. I don't know what associated with the construction would be light pollution. The areas that we're talking about here are pretty wooded. And as far as noise goes, it was just talking about typical, construction equipment. It's nothing that's going to that you don't hear going through town all the time. So will be some trucks, coming in and out of the site, but we're not talking about a major construction project to be done with, a couple of excavators, bulldozer, and probably a 10-wheeler or two during the normal. I'm assuming that the Conservation Commission puts time 7 to 4, 7 to 5 time restrictions on this work as well. So try to make as quiet as possible, I guess.
I mean, I think one way to look at it too is that the residents are gonna, these are their neighbors, so I'm sure they're gonna try to be as courteous as they can, since they're going to be living there. It's not a developer that's coming in and building a development. They're going to be living in this actual home. So I'm sure they're going to, try to take their neighbors into account when they're building this property, just him being such a resident of Grafton and everything, that, and the fact that they're going to be occupying this home. Mariah's next. Yep.
So I don't know if it would be in the CONSCOM's jurisdiction. I think there might be bylaws about hours of work, but I don't think that's a CONSCOM thing.
Correct. So I was going to hop in and say that there are questions that are being asked that are beyond the commission's charge, such as hours of construction. I see things about screening for privacy. We talked a little bit about, you know, commercial versus personal horse usage. Things like that are not under the commission's jurisdiction. We're looking at proximity and potential impacts to wetlands as well as stormwater. I did check with the planning department about the questions surrounding commercial horse usage earlier, just to have a better answer for you guys. And if that were to be the case, which they have stated it's not, they would need a site plan approval from planning. So if their answer were to ever change and they were looking for something commercial, there would be another process that they would need to be going through. It's not something that could just, you know, happen under the radar.
Okay.
But as I said, those things are not what we're here to make a decision on.
So Mariah has said that she will save those for another planning meeting. Do I still have to read through them all because they're typed into the chat, or can we just skip the ones that would be outside of our jurisdiction?
Why don't you read the whole thing and just pause for comments when it's relevant?
Okay. So her next question was preserving as many trees, especially evergreens, as possible along the northern property boundary for year-round foliage and privacy between the properties. That wouldn't be something that we would necessarily have any say on, correct, Leah?
Correct.
Okay. The next one is the proposed setback from the arena barn area seems very close to the northern property line of 19 George Hill. That's outside of us.
Yeah, but we did get interdepartmental comments about that and the setbacks. The plans were revised to reflect the setbacks.
Okay. The next one is concerned about the arena barn light pollution visible from their residence, especially since so many trees will be removed, there will be no coverage. That is outside of our area.
Correct.
Next is how many horses do they intend to have? How many stalls in the barn? Will they offer lessons or boardings for other horses in a commercial sense? That's outside of us, and we've already kind of covered that. Next is what is the plan for manure disposal on the property? I don't think that's anything. That would probably be more of a Board of Health type thing, Leah. That's not anything we would.
I mean, we can weigh in on it in terms of proximity to resource areas and keeping it out of resource areas and as far away as possible. I don't know if that specific area was shown on the plan.
Chris, have they designated a specific area for manure disposal?
Not that I know of, but obviously they like to keep it, manage it from from a equipment perspective. But obviously we wouldn't want to have it going into any in and around, or it would drain into any of those basins or any of the water quality infrastructure.
Okay. The next one from Mariah is the distance of the proposed horse barn sand arena is closer to our residents, 245 feet, than to their own residents, 425 feet, which concerns me. That's outside of the Conservation Commission. They're concerned about runoff from the driveway arena barn construction impacting streams and ponds on neighboring properties. I'm assuming what you guys would set up some engineering controls during the construction to prevent any sort of runoff from going into streams and ponds. We would require it.
That'd be part of
Yes.
the SWIP, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So that would be part of their stormwater pollution prevention plan, Mariah, just so you know what a SWIP is. And then I'm just trying to cover all Mariah's questions. So she said that her concerns overlap completely with Shauna's concerns as well. And she submitted them through email. They live to the north. Overall, do you have a longer term timeline, years, for the overall project?
I would say that they're looking to
get constructed and get moving. So, you know, ideally, if they were to start this year, we'd like to finish it within a year's time. So by the end of 2022, I think is doable, depending upon, you know, there's a lot of things that affect development as far as people's, you know, finances and that type of thing go. But that is the plan, to and not open up any more land or disturb any more land that then they're going to build into at the time.
Okay. She has said, thank you. She thinks that's it. She will bring her other concerns to the planning meeting. She understands that we skipped the ones that weren't relevant to this meeting, and we already covered some of the information that she needed, and she thanked you multiple times. So Mariah, sounds like you are good. I am going to read the comments. Let me just make sure she said she's all set and she appreciates it. Perfect. Now going back, Laura Otenti, she's the owner of 15 George Hill Road. She said she submitted concerns via the email form as well, but her concerns are similar to the ones we already discussed.
Yeah, can I hop in there for a sec?
Yep.
So I did get this one before leaving the office earlier today, and there was one that we haven't covered already from Laura, which was she had concerns about the water usage for these homeowners and the horses affecting nearby wells. I believe your septic plans are in front of the Board of Health. I don't think they've made a decision on those yet, correct?
Correct.
So that that would be something that would fall under the Board of Health. So Laura, if you would like to contact the Board of Health, you can continue that conversation with them.
Okay. There's one comment in here from Bonnie and Tim. Bonnie and Tim, if you guys could put your last name and also your address, so that we can introduce you properly, and then I can go through your question if you're still here.
They're still on the chat, or they're still in attendance, I should say.
Okay. So yeah, Bonnie or Tim, I just need your last name and your address, please. Thank you. And then while we're waiting for that, Leah, I don't know if you saw Jude for the Wheeler Drive continued hearing is here.
Yep, I got that.
Okay, perfect. I will give Bonnie and Tim another minute. I mean, I can read their question without their information. Leah, yes. Oh, Bonnie and Tim Pierre, they're 9 George Hill Road. So they just want to confirm, is it going to be a 6? They said plan looks like a 6-stall barn. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a 6-stall barn. Yes.
Okay.
Probably point out that that's probably not within our jurisdiction as well, is the number of horses they're allowed to keep, or the use
Correct.
of the barn and all that stuff. That's other town departments.
Yep. Just wanted to make sure I covered everything. And so that is all of the comments that have been typed into chat by everyone in order. So if anyone has any additional comments or questions that are relevant, so Bonnie and Tim just replied for 1 horse. How many area for 5 horses? So Bonnie, that's not something that the Conservation Commission would cover. That would be probably for a different board. So that's not something that we would address at this meeting. Okay. You're welcome. She says, thank you. You're welcome. Okay. So going back to what's going on, we're still waiting for a peer review. We're still awaiting a DEP number and also comments from the DEP, correct, Leah?
Correct.
Okay. So we're not going to be able to do anything this evening.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to cover tonight
Nope.
before we continue?
That's all I have.
Okay. Chris, would you like to request a continuance to our next meeting?
Yes, yes, I would, please. If I could, just for the homeowners reference, the peer review, how is that structured? Is there a budget that's set for peer review? Is there a set aside?
So-
how?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I will send the documents to our peer reviewer and ask him for an estimate. I'll let you know what that estimate is, and then once I have the
Great.
funds in hand to cover that estimate, I will authorize him to begin work. And then once he does his work, he'll send a bill and I'll pay it out of that account with the money that you submitted.
Okay, thank you.
So John or Patrick, do you have anything else question-wise you would like to add tonight before Chris has just requested a continuance?
I don't. I think the questions are good. You know, it's important to see what your neighbors are doing and what's going on. And I think that, you know, it's important to put these questions in, but my questions were definitely buried in that list of questions. So I don't have any more.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add tonight. But I appreciate everyone's comments and participation in the chat.
Okay. And just so everyone that was in the chat is aware, our next meeting presumably is going to be an in-person meeting. So just be aware of that. Check the website so you know when and where we'll be meeting if you have additional questions so that you can attend that meeting. That being the case, Chris has requested a continuance, so we just need a motion.
I'll motion to continue to our next meeting on July 13th.
Second.
Okay. Patrick has made a motion. John has seconded. Now we'll take a vote. John?
There was a question that came in from, it looks like the homeowner.
Oh, yep, I just saw that. So Leah, Paul has asked why they need a peer review, the homeowner for this property.
Well, so sometimes when it's obvious, I put it out for peer review on the staff level before we come into the first meeting. This one, I wanted to poll the commission and see what they felt after hearing the concerns from the residents. I believe they've instructed me to go ahead and get engineering peer review to check the stormwater calculations.
Correct. Paul, does that answer your question? Yes. Okay, perfect. So we were in the middle of a vote. So Patrick made a motion and John seconded, as I recall, maybe. So John?
Yes.
Okay, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, I also vote yes. So we will talk to you again on the 13th of July.
Very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everyone,
night.
for being engaged in the chat. Also, you for all of your comments. Have a good night.
Yep.
Okay. Let me figure out what I'm doing now.
We got to back up to the 7:15 that we continued to 8.
Okay. Going back up. Okay. So we're going to go back to the Grafton and Upton Railroad right-of-way. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for the review of a wetlands delineation along the Grafton and Upton Railroad right-of-way. That is that. And then here. And I know they were here now. Okay.
So this should be Tom. Can you hear us okay?
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure can.
Excellent. Thank you for being patient. I was having some technical issues.
No problem.
Okay. So as you may recall, I was here, I think, last month for the Providence and Worcester Railroad. So I'm here tonight on behalf of the Grafton and Upton for essentially the same activity on their rail line. So I'll just recap what we went through last time. So for vegetation management on the railroad, the work is overseen by the Department of Agricultural Resources, and they have to have a 5-year VMP, which they recently renewed. Their last one expired at the end of 2020. They just renewed the one for the next 5 years, and as part of that, they have to get a determination of the boundaries of the resource areas. So that's why I'm here tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
Okay, thank you. John or Patrick, do you have any specific questions on this? It seems pretty straightforward.
I don't have anything.
No comments.
Leah, did you have anything?
So their delineation matches the data that I have. I just wanted to clarify that these determinations last for 5 years, the length of their vegetation management plan. So it's a little different from the traditional determinations we issue, which are 3.
Okay.
Just for clarification for the commission, but that's all I have.
Okay. Does anyone in the chat have any questions or comments about this one? We'll give them a second. I'm not seeing anyone typing or anything in the chat. So on this one, we would issue a positive determination that would be in agreement with the delineation. If someone wanted to make a motion.
Sure. I'll motion to close the hearing and issue a positive determination in agreement with the delineation.
Second.
Okay, Patrick made a motion. John second. Now we'll take a vote. John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
I'm Alicia. I also vote yes. So you are all set.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You also.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Next is 8 and 100 Pine Street. Correct, Leah? I'm not missing anything.
You got it.
Okay. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit, and application for Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for property redevelopment to construct a residential and retail buildings at 8 and 100 Pine Street. And we have someone here for that. Ooh, what did I just do?
We do. That would be me.
Okay. Hello.
Hi. So I can give you a quick update.
Before you get going, can you just introduce yourself?
Yep. I'm Jean Christie, Senior Engineer with Ty and Bond.
Thank you.
So we still have, I'll back up a little bit. We received a revised peer review comment letter from Graves a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago, two weeks ago, and then responded to those late last week. I do want to point out in that letter, Graves did state that they didn't have any issues with the project's compliance with the wetland bylaw or the stormwater bylaw. So I think, we can discuss some of the potential conditions that I think we're going to be requesting in that response. if that's appropriate to do now, or if we want to do that later. I know that there's another outstanding piece which is the letter or, acknowledgement of the project from the owners of 100 Pine Street. That's gotten a little complicated, as we initially thought that would just be from Job Corps. And then the property owners are actually the state, and then the US Department of Labor manages Job Corps, so now they're involved. So this has gone completely up the ladder to them. So we don't have that yet. So I think at this point, we are looking to see if the commission would entertain that as a condition of approval, since we don't know when that will receive that. So I think that's another request. And then the third thing I wanted to briefly chat about was kind of came up last night at the planning board meeting. We were talking about some site distance concerns that the traffic peer reviewer had, that from the southernmost, or the northern driveway, looking towards the rail line. It's been identified that there's some vegetation there that's kind of obstructing the view. And we thought we would ask you folks what you thought about this proposal. We know that we can't cut anything within the 25-foot no disturb zone, but we're wondering if the commission would entertain doing some limbing to improve the view, not the view, improve visibility to cars coming north on Pine Street. And I'm happy to show a graphic or two if that helps at all.
So it's not going to let you show a graphic. I can pull up the map though. So we're probably talking about somewhere around here, right?
Yes. So we're looking at the Centennial Drive Pine Street intersection and looking south to the rail line. There's some pine trees there that have some overgrowth, into the roadway. Curious if, we can cut down some of those limbs, not disturbing any of the trees themselves, just improving that visibility.
Okay. Alicia, would it be cool if I kind of guide you guys through a series of questions for this one?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So as Jean mentioned, they need to cut some vegetation in the no disturb for visibility. So what that would entail would be a waiver request, which you guys can do verbally now and just follow up with paper after the fact for the file. So if you guys want to request that waiver, I guess we kind of just need to firm up the scope. So like the extent of where in the shoulder of the roadway, as well as just documenting that it's just trimming. It's not like herbicides or anything like that. So if we can just firm up those details verbally now, and you can follow that up with paper, then the commission can take a vote on that waiver request as the first thing.
I think that the scope of that work would be very limited to that view shed, of a driver at the intersection looking south. I can't tell you offhand exactly what that height is. And if that would include, how far above ground that would include, so I don't know exactly what's out there. Is there any possibility to bring up like Google Earth to take a look at it together?
Does the thing I was on help at all?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I think looking at the actual view to show you, oh, I think it's that pine tree, that big one that you see at the bottom there, right next to the wetland. It could be some of those ones. Yep, exactly.
Okay. So I guess the more important question is like how many feet from the roadway, and then how many feet off the roadway? So how deep into the parcel are we talking?
I think we're just looking at those that are encroaching on into the roadway.
Okay.
So you can see how some of those trees are over the edge of pavement.
All right, and it's trimming only, no herbicides or
No
anything like that?
herbicides,
Okay.
just trimming of branches.
Okay, also, for clarification, waiver requests come with a $50 fee, so we will need that as well, with the written request.
Okay.
Is this something that you think is gonna be recurring maintenance, like annual or something like that?
I think it would be evaluated annually. I don't know
Okay.
if it would need to be maintained in the same manner every year. But I think it's,
Okay.
take a look at what that visibility looks like as the year goes on and see if anything needs to happen. And if that's a notification that we would need to make to the commission.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah. I was gonna suggest a condition, that, whenever this needs to occur, the commission get notified, and if the scope ever needs to expand, we reevaluate at that point.
Okay.
So if the commission would like to, you can take a vote on that waiver request first.
Okay. Does anyone have any public comments before we move forward with that waiver request? It seems like it's a safety issue, so it makes sense that they would trim them back just to increase visibility, especially if there's potentially going to be increased traffic. We just need to give time. It doesn't look like anybody is typing or commenting. So, would anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to grant the waiver request with the conditions as stated. With, I believe, the work to be basically within the road and no herbicides.
Second.
Okay, Patrick made a motion. John made a second. So now we'll vote. John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
I also vote yes, so that waiver is all set. And then you guys can just submit the formal request and send in the fee for that to Leah.
We will follow up with that.
Okay, excellent.
So another thing that I had from, might be the last meeting, might have been the one before, we talked about the phasing plan. Phase 3 was proposed as being greater than 5 acres. However, once the building foundation is in place in that phase, only 1 acre will be left open. I don't think the commission formally, gave feedback on that. So I just wanted to get you guys' take on that specifically.
How much greater was it than 5 acres? It was pretty close. It was like 5 point.
It was 6.2.
6 point.
That sounds right. It was in the 6 area.
Yeah, and the reason that is the size that it is due to how the actual residential building, because it's such a large building, needs to be constructed. And that, that foundation would happen at once.
I didn't have any specific issue with it based on everything that was discussed around it.
When it gets that size of that much space being open during construction, is there additional requirements of the stormwater plan or the erosion and sediment control that are implemented as part of that? Leah? All right, I'm not sure if that's a question for Leah or for Jean.
So, go ahead. Go for it.
I was going to say, commonly when you have that much area disturbed, it just changes the type of contemporary stormwater controls you have. Fortunately, where this actual phase was located, it's kind of, there's runoff will go both to the north and to the south. So it's possible we can keep the smaller type of stormwater control, one to the north and one to the south, so that we don't have that larger, more complex kind of design, keep it simple.
Mhm.
more traditional.
I don't have any other comments than that.
Okay.
Alicia, we were just covering the phasing plan, the
Yep.
first bullet point in my agent report.
Yes. Yeah, I got that. I just had a dog that temporarily wanted to sit on my lap.
If you don't have any comments on
I don't have any
phasing-
comments. Nope.
Okay. The next thing I had for the commission was a question of whether or not you feel a physical barrier is needed along the no disturb zone. And I'm going to try to find the latest, the latest and greatest plan sheet to show you guys. And I believe, Jean, you can probably elaborate on this. There's a retaining wall
Sure.
behind the garage, correct?
Correct. You can see those thicker, darker lines are retaining walls. So those are obviously permanent structures. You know, the vegetation on the other side of those will be grass. And so I think there's, you know, there's opportunity to let that grow and be mowed maybe on a less frequent basis than regular mowing, since it's really not going to be seen. But I think, you know, that's a pretty permanent barrier, but I understand if the commission would prefer something right along that 25-foot no disturb so that there would be no mowing past that.
And just for clarification for the commission, we would still do our usual signs. This is just, do we also want to ask for like a fence or boulders or whatever the case may be?
I mean, I always think that a permanent barrier is a good idea, just because people do have a tendency, even if it's a commercial building, I'm sure it's going to be mowed by a hired service or a landscaping company. And just having that permanent barrier prevents them from accidentally mowing, you know, where we don't want them to be mowing. So either boulders or a fence is fine, as long as it prohibits a lawnmower from getting into that area, and also any dumping from occurring into that space. But John or Patrick, do you have?
I agree with what you just said. I think that's good, especially if it's a commercial property that landscapers are gonna, you know, depending on what year you might switch landscapers and they may not know where the line is. You know, the sign may get shoved aside or something. So I agree. I think a physical barrier is nice to have there.
Yeah, I prefer that as well, whenever possible.
So just any either fencing or boulders, just something that will prevent a lawnmower from getting into that space and act as a physical barrier in addition to the signage, just so that someone doesn't, you know, accidentally, unknowingly creep into the area where they're not supposed to be mowing.
And then, well, unless you guys have anything, Jean, anything you wanted to say in response to that one?
I would default to Matt on that one.
Okay.
So in terms of the kind of the general sentiment that, you know, will be a commercial landscaping company doing the maintenance, no objection to that physical barrier. I think just from an aesthetic preference, I think we would prefer something along the lines of a boulder or something like that, simply to the transition into the natural environment. I think would be a nicer transition, and you know, I think tenants and also customers would appreciate that more than a fence. But you know, no real objection to that requirement.
Okay. Yeah, and either one is fine, the boulders or the fencing. So aesthetically, as long as you place the boulders in a manner so that a lawnmower can't get through in between them, then that is completely fine, just as long as it is a physical barrier.
Yes, no objection.
Okay, perfect.
And then one other piece is there's some soil testing that is forthcoming. And so this has been in discussion with Jeff, with our peer reviewer, and also with the applicant's responses to Jeff's comments. If the commission is agreeable to this, I have drafted a condition, which I will read now, and forgive me, it's a little bit lengthy, as to how to handle this soil testing. So just for background, this is testing that would clarify the depth of groundwater where the infiltration BMPs are located, to ensure that they can proceed with the design as proposed. If something's found that is going to need to alter the design, then that would change things a little bit and they'd have to come back to us. However, let me read this condition and get you guys' take on it. So I propose that we could have a special condition that says, during site remediation and demolition work, but prior to commencement of new construction activities, soil testing shall be undertaken at the infiltration BMP locations, including the open basin, and data shall be submitted to the commission for review. Mounding calculations should be provided if the bottom of any infiltration BMPs will be within 4 feet of seasonal high groundwater. Any redesign caused by the test results shall be submitted to the commission as a minor change, amended order, or new notice of intent, depending upon the scope. So I'll stop there and get feedback on that one before I move on to other potential conditions.
I think that sounds reasonable. I'm just rereading it. But that sounds like a reasonable request, and we can review it. And
okay.
John or Patrick?
I have nothing else to add there.
Nothing else to add.
Okay.
Okay, the last few conditions I have are prior to commencement of new construction activities, contact information for the party responsible for the O&M plan shall be provided. Also, prior to commencement of new construction activities, a sign off from the owners of 100 Pine Street shall be provided. Snow shall not be pushed into any stormwater infrastructure, resource areas, or no disturb zones. And as we talked about earlier, the commission shall be notified of recurring vegetation maintenance in the roadway shoulder, and it shall not exceed the scope approved here without further review by the commission. Does anyone have any other special conditions? Aside from our standard special conditions.
Yep. Nope, I do not. John or Patrick?
Nope.
Nothing.
Just circling back, Leah, she had said that they were going to have difficulty getting that signed letter from the owners of 100 Pine. Is there anything, I know we talked about, you just stated that in a special condition. Is there anything else? Like, do we still have to keep that as a special condition, even though it seems like it may be fairly not possible?
I think we need some sort of written acknowledgement from that owner for the file.
Okay.
Showing
So
that they signed.
Maybe a written acknowledgement, is that just in case they can't get someone to officially be the signer?
Yeah, I mean, the specifics of what that document looks like is pretty open-ended.
Okay, perfect.
So whether they want to give them the signature page, from the original NOI, and they add a signature there, if they want to send in a memo that says we acknowledge that these permits were applied for and are okay with that, that's fine too. We've gotten various forms in the past.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we accommodated kind of their request that it might not be possible for a formal letter. That's all. Okay, so those conditions all sound reasonable. John and Patrick didn't have anything. There's no public comments, but I'll give people another minute if they wanted to add anything.
The only other thing I'll throw in the meantime is just when you're making your motion, just please say that you are issuing the order and permits pending receipt of that waiver, written waiver request and fee.
So it doesn't look like there are any comments, so we just need a motion.
I will motion to close the hearing and issue issue the order and permits with the conditions, special conditions as previously read, pending receipt of the waiver request and the waiver fee.
Second.
Okay, Patrick made a motion, John seconded. Now we will take a vote. John,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I also vote yes. So you are good to go.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You.
You too.
Okay. One more. So now we are going to do the project on 11 Wheeler Road. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit, an application for Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the development of a 6-lot subdivision at 11 Wheeler Road. And I see that we have Stanley McGriff here, and Jude, are you here for this one also?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. If you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jude Govan. I am with Andrews Surveying and Engineering. I'm here representing the applicant Stanley McGriff for the 6-lot subdivision. So last time we were here, we had discussed a few items that needed to be addressed, and we sent the information over to Graves, and they responded with a review letter with some housekeeping items that we have corrected and revised on the plans. We did get a letter this morning from Jeff over at Graves, and there's a discrepancy on the plans between the profile plan and the grading plan, where it calls out the hydro guard that we're proposing to achieve the 80% total suspended solids removal prior to the infiltration basin. So that just needs to get cleaned up, and I believe that's the only issue that Graves had on the site. We do not have a notice of intent. We don't have a DEP number, and that's because when this was submitted, I was in the hospital having some surgery, and it was neglected to be sent digitally over to the DEP. It was sent, the paper copy was sent, but the digital file was never sent over. I sent that over this morning, so I would anticipate by the next meeting we should have a DEP number and be willing to discuss closing the hearing. Unless the commission has any other questions.
Do you guys mind if I hop in for a second?
Go for it.
So we are still awaiting an alternatives analysis as well. Has there been any progress made on that?
No, but I could certainly get an alternatives analysis done.
And then at the last hearing, the commission was discussing the potential for any additional LID, such as roof infiltration. Have any of those revisions taken place?
No, they haven't, because at the last meeting, I thought it was discussed that that was a possibility, but then we had discussed the fact that because the roofs are draining over the grass and stuff, that was adequate in this case.
Okay.
Did you have anything else, Leah?
That's all I have.
Okay. If anyone in the public had any questions or anything, they could, I'm losing my voice, type them into the chat feature. But while we wait for that, Patrick, did you have anything to add or any additional questions?
I don't think I have anything to add right now.
Okay. And John?
Nothing to add.
Okay. And it doesn't look like there's anything in the chat. Did you want to formally request a continuance?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the applicant has requested a continuance. We just need a motion.
Make a motion to continue the hearing for 11 Wheeler Road. Is it a hearing? It's not a hearing.
Yep.
Yes, it is a hearing. Continue the hearing for 11 Wheeler Road to the 7/13 meeting.
Second.
Okay, John has made a motion. Patrick seconds. Now we'll take a vote. John?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
I also vote yes. So we will talk to you at the meeting on July 13th.
See you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
So Leah, I think we covered everything.
We covered everything that's listed. We do have our potential commissioner who's been hanging in there.
Oh, this was a good. This was a good one for her too.
So I can go ahead and promote her to a panelist for a second if you guys want to have a chance to chat.
Yeah,
Great.
welcome. I feel like this was a good representative sample of a not that easy meeting.
No,
So
well,
most
it's interesting.
comments.
Well, it was they're so scrambled up. I like couldn't keep them straight, and I'm scrolling back up and scrolling back down, and different people were commenting. So I'm sorry if I kind of mixed that up a little
No,
bit.
you looked. I think you did a great job. So
Thank you.
It was actually very interesting, and so I'm glad I got that sort of gamut of all the different flavors of the things that you're dealing with. But I figured you'd want to probably ask me about me. Why me? But so my name, if you all know, is Betsy Friedman Doherty, and I live down on North Street. I've been a resident of Grafton for 31 years. I think it will be 32 this August. I kind of lost count. And I was a career fundraiser in higher ed, meaning I lived out of a suitcase for a lot of years. And I decided after working remotely for a year, I didn't want to go back to flying across the country, and retired, and am now doing fundraising consulting. And I also got my real estate license. So I'm selling real estate mostly in Weston, but also will be in Grafton. And so I've never had the opportunity, when my son was little, I was involved with the school getting the new elementary school built back in the day. My son went to school underneath the staircase in the municipal building. And so myself and a lot of other parents really fought hard to get the school built and the high school off the ground. And but I haven't been able to be involved in town business because I've been living, on the road all the time, and my hours are crazy. So this is a great opportunity for me to get involved. 7 of those years I worked at the veterinary school at Tufts, and I know people think of it as, you know, dogs and cats, but really their mission is in conservation and in public health. And so that's really where I got really interested in what was going on in my backyard. And my property, I think, abuts marsh and swamp, and I keep on seeing land being sucked up everywhere. And I moved here 32 years ago because I loved all the open land, and I loved being able to walk on trails and not get run over on my street on North Street getting my mail, which I do now. So I'm just really an interested citizen. I don't have expertise other than the fact that I'm a nature lover, and I care deeply about Grafton and want to do my part.
I think that's great. I think that would bring, again, some good balance to the board of someone. I've only been in Grafton for 7 going on 8 years, so I don't have the deep, kind of experience in the town. I've got a background in construction, commercial construction, so I kind of have that side of it. And I think someone coming on that's been in Grafton for so long and knows the town and the history is important. So I think that's great.
I think that'll be a nice asset to kind of balance out the commission, because that's kind of the piece that we're missing sometimes.
Yep.
Is that historical, and Helen, who previously was on the
You're
commission,
making me feel like I was born in 1870.
No. But I mean, I've lived here
no, well,
9 years, I think. But it's nice to have the balance, because sometimes, like, for example, I can be like overly analytical with things, and it's nice to have the balance of someone that is more of like a longtime town resident to balance out where the commission is heading and make us a more even-keeled commission, if that makes sense.
No, I 1000% get that. And it was interesting because when I moved here all those years ago and I went to my first town meeting, it was really interesting because I was considered a newcomer, and wasn't really, the town meeting was kind of really tough. I'm sure it still is tough, but it was really hard then. And because there weren't a lot of new people, there was no new development in Grafton. And so growth here was really slow. And then all of a sudden, I think when my son was 5, his kindergarten class the year before went from 50 students to 150 students. That's how quickly the town grew and running out of space. And so, I got my school of, learned through the school of hard knocks that you had to earn your stripes. And I'm not one to keep my mouth shut. If I think I believe in something strongly, I'll say it. And, Grafton is one of those places where you have people of all flavors. And I never want to be one of those old farts who said we've always done it this way, because that makes me mad. And I don't want to be that person. But I would really love to see and be involved in the fact that the town is a great town to live in. It's a great town, whether you're raising a family or your dogs. And right now I love my dogs more than my family. That's the other reason why I didn't want to go back to work, because I love being with my animals. So so I'm excited to be involved, and I would love to be able to be part of something important and something that actually means, when I say means something, I don't want it to be a cursory involvement. The Conservation Commission involves a lot. I've been doing a lot of reading for the past several days, and you all are so knowledgeable, and I'm thinking, oh boy, I got a lot to learn. But that's part of the good part that keeps the neurons firing and will force me to be a smarter person at the end of the day.
I mean, there's a lot of great resources available to us, and Sandy is one of them, who's our chair, who's not here. She knows everything. I just read everything fairly mediocrely off of the chat and the iPad.
You did good. You did
But
good.
there is opportunity through different programs to attend conferences, and that was one of the things I had wanted to do. And then there was a pandemic and
Yeah,
all of that stuff. But there is a lot of continuing ed available. I mean, I have a background in environmental consulting and also in regulatory compliance for a variety of regulations. So that's kind of where I come from. That's like my specialties in environmental consulting, environmental construction, those sorts of things. So that's kind of where my little place is on the commission. But I mean, if you want to do it, I think it will be awesome.
I would love to be able to do it, and I'm happy to be able to do it. I'm finally, once in my life, I get to call the shots in my life, and it won't be dictated by, you know, having to either be on a plane or be doing events at night. And so I would really enjoy doing this. So may I ask a question? So tonight you said was sort of the gamut, but the agendas or the meeting agendas, are they usually this robust or not?
I mean, I felt like this one wasn't that bad. So
Okay.
it really depends. So in the summer, we only meet once a month. So
Yep, I
our
noticed
meetings
that on
in
the
the summer, because we only have that one meeting a month, and because a lot of homeowners are trying to do projects and it's a busy construction season, things are getting done. Sometimes we will see some of these longer, well, this isn't a longer one compared to when I first started on the commission, but you know, some of these 9-10 o'clock meetings, there's other times where we're done in 45 minutes because the agenda is very short. It's very dependent on the amount of public involvement we have for a particular agenda item, how many agenda items, how many times, like tonight we had quite a few things that we had already heard multiple times and we were voting on it, in the same sense that tonight we had a few things that we continued to the next meeting. So they did a lot of their talking tonight. The next meeting they won't do as much. But I'd say for lately, this is a 2-hour meeting is fairly typical for what we've been seeing.
And how much time are you spending out? So do all of you go? So I know, Leah, you seem to be the anchor to all of this. You're the person that goes out and looks at sites and is the connector for all of the different moving parts.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm the conservation agent. When we are fully staffed, there's also a conservation assistant. That position is vacant right now. So right now it's just me. But I do the site visits, gather photos if necessary, investigate neighbor complaints, you know, answer the phone calls, the emails, get all this material ready for the meeting for you guys. So we will be hiring probably July a new assistant. Also, the budget that passed at town meeting allows us to hire a field inspector for the next fiscal year. So we'll be looking to grow to a staff of 3.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. So I was saying that case with the Elmwood Street with the fencing, and most of these things had a lot of things that were out of scope for the Conservation Commission. So clearly, when people are coming to you, until you hear everything, you don't even know whether it's in the scope of what we do or what you do or not.
Absolutely correct. There's a lot of investigative work and a lot of answers fall in the gray. There's not a lot that's black and white.
Not my job. Yeah. Well, half the fence was yours and half of it wasn't, right? So that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Butts wetland,
correct.
riverfront, then that's our gig. And
correct.
And so, and when I was hearing about, again, the builders of the horse farm, all the questions that were coming in, really, a lot of those fell outside of the scope of the Conservation Commission. So I feel like people are getting all fired up and yelling at the wrong people. Not that they were yelling, but
Sometimes, yeah. Most of what sets our jurisdiction is the Wetlands Protection Act. So that lays out what resource areas are, and then where the buffer zones are. And so most of what we do has to do with proximity to those resource areas. We do also look at stormwater on projects that are over an acre. Then we need a stormwater bylaw permit as well. And then we have our wetlands bylaw, which piggybacks off of the Wetlands Protection Act and adds things like the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Great. So what would you say the next steps are? Then you're gonna go back and either recommend or not, and then the next meeting would be July.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with staff for the select board and let them know that, you know, we had this discussion and you look like a good fit for the commission. And then I think the select board has another meeting, I think it's next Tuesday, where they could formally appoint you.
Okay.
Once you are appointed, I believe you come in and get sworn in. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
and you have to do a training.
Yep.
open meeting law, I think.
You have to do conflict of interest.
Yeah, so I worked
Okay.
for UMass Boston for almost 8 years. So we had to actually do that every year.
It's the same one because I worked at
Same video.
UMass Medical School, and I got to do it just once though, and it covered both things. So
Right, yeah, it can be
I will
covered if you've done it for someone else, that will cover here.
Leah,
Yeah,
so it looks like they're going to extend the COVID emergency orders.
did that just come through now?
Yeah, it says extension of COVID emergency orders. The Senate has voted to accept the report, a few more procedural steps, and it should be on Charlie Baker's desk tonight.
Okay.
So if they do extend it, are we gonna stay Zoom or are we gonna go in person?
So that was like the final piece I wanted to discuss with you guys this evening. So, you know, had that not gone through, we were going to need to come back in person. We only have one meeting room capable of a hybrid model right now. That's the conference room where the select board meets. We most often meet at the same time as them. So they usually claim that room. And then we have the room we used to have upstairs, which can't do both Zoom and in-person studio recording. However, if this, you know, extension has now come through, I will have
it
to.
says it's going to come through.
Yeah, I'll have to check the language and I've been talking pretty closely with the town administrator just to make sure we're doing everything, you know, how we're supposed to. So as long as the language is there to say that Zoom is still allowed through, I think it was intended to be September 1, then in theory, we could keep our meetings through September 1 on Zoom. If there's some requirement for an in-person component, then I think we are going to have to just jump over to in-person and drop Zoom again because of the meeting room capabilities. But I can certainly blast out an email to you guys tomorrow after I talk to staff and find out what's going on for sure. The heading of our...
So my question is, well, there's no limitations anymore, right? So does the town have, we're going to allow as many people, just for example, this hearing we had tonight could be a big, is the town going to limit how many people we're allowed to have in the room at a time?
I don't believe you are allowed to.
Okay.
An open meeting is open to whoever wants to attend.
Okay.
So just a note for you guys, you know, I know everyone has different comfort levels. So if we do need to come back in person and you want to, you know, wear your mask the whole time, that's perfectly acceptable. And, you know, if you have any other concerns, if it goes that way and we're going to be in person, you have other concerns you want to voice to me privately, feel free to do that as well.
That's great. That's great. Well, I have one humorous thing to say is that I haven't seen, Ray Mead was the town moderator when I moved here 32 years ago, and he did not have gray hair. So now he's on, now I heard he's back on the select board.
He is.
Yeah.
His grandkids live 2 doors down, and his son, I should say, lived 2 doors down from me.
I have not probably spoken or seen him in maybe 20 years, but That will be interesting. So,
Also, I would like to just make an observation that, have you noticed that all of these like chaotic things often happen when Sandy is not here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I remember one time when we had an in-person meeting, there was like, almost an altercation in the room when
Right.
Sandy was not here.
Right.
Woof.
I would just like to make that
It
observation.
does
that-
seem suspicious.
Yeah, it
I-
seems like
There's a
she's
pattern.
almost always
make a motion.
here, and when she's not, things get a little crazy. So
Yeah, I think you guys handled it very well.
I think you did very, very well. I was very impressed. And actually, I'm thinking, you know, I'm usually in bed by now. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I actually was engaged and I was paying attention and actually Googling the addresses so that I could see exactly where you were talking about, you know, I mean, I like looking at diagrams, but I like seeing pictures better. By the way, one of the people who, I think it's 9 George Hill. There were 2 people. There was one from 9 George Hill and one from 13 George Hill. And 9 George Hill is on the market. So I thought that was interesting because I'm sure that a potential buyer might ask those questions, but
so we can't discuss anything about the project that like if we were to Google it on our phone while they're talking, we can't discuss any of that. We can only talk off of the information that's provided to us by the applicant.
thank you for bringing that to my attention because I was wondering about that. And I was trying to do it so I could actually see where some of these properties were. Like, how is 100 Pine Street close to 8 Pine Street?
So I've done that before, just for my own personal reference, just because I didn't grow up in town and
Yeah.
I live way over in a tiny corner of North Grafton by Wyman Gordon. And honestly,
yeah.
until fairly recently, I don't even venture into that many other parts of town. So I've done it before just to kind of orient myself in terms of it, but we're not allowed to discuss any of that stuff at the meeting. We're only allowed to discuss information provided to us by the applicant, information that Leah pulls up through the website that's displayed for the public, and anything that the public speaks verbally, but we can't look things up on our own that's not available to the public at the meeting.
So if somebody is at the meeting and has their laptop in front of them and they bring up something that's cogent, that's
So
okay.
we can't do that as the commissioners.
No, but they can. So if
well,
someone is sitting in the room, assuming they have Wi-Fi, but I'm just saying someone could be
Yep, the
Googling-
public can do whatever they want. They
Got
can bring stuff up and that while they're sitting waiting for the hearing, or if they're at home or whatever. But yeah, we just can't discuss things that aren't available to the public just because it is an open meeting and they have to have access to everything that we have access to, basically. Yeah, I'm saying this right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to know. And so that's part of that training, I imagine, because you can step in a lot of potholes, proverbial potholes.
I don't know if it's on the training. I just learned it from Sandy saying it multiple.
That's probably part of open meeting law.
Okay.
If you
Yeah.
look up a little bit about open meeting
I
law.
will. Yeah, no, that's good to know. Is there anything else you think I should know?
All I wanted to point out, Betsy, was so to what we were just talking about. Every meeting, Leah prepares kind of a document that runs us through bullet points and all the feedback that we've gotten, and it's like it's an agenda, but it's got all these details that as the commission we can see. Plus, we have access to Dropbox, which gives us access to the plans that the people have submitted, or the engineering firms have submitted. So I find a couple hours before the meeting to go through and kind of just take a quick look to make sure nothing jumps out. So at least I'm not getting so you mentioned kind of the time outside of the meeting. If it's a short agenda, it might take you half an hour to kind of flip through the documents and just kind of get familiarized with it, and then you're prepared to kind of listen to the conversation of the meeting without having to stare at it.
Yeah,
the whole
so
time.
that's my point too. So but those are the same documents that are available to the public. It's just that you're seeing them beforehand so that you can actually have some intelligent discourse in case you have questions.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, like right now when we're remote and when we're in person, we have access to iPads. When we meet in the meeting room, when we go back to in-person meetings, we all have an iPad because we've made an effort to go paperless as a commission. So you'll have access to all the plans that we have in Dropbox on an iPad right in front of you when we're having the meeting.
Awesome.
And I sit here on the Zoom and have my iPad at home, and the same thing, I can flip through plans and go through different things to just, if I have a question, I can look it up before I ask it type thing.
No, I
And
mean,
those are available to the public, all those plans. So technically they're public information, so we can use those.
got it. And Jonathan, your point's well taken. Like I said, I tried to spend the past couple of days when I had submitted my application. I think I had said I would be interested either in the affordable housing or conservation. So I didn't know which one I was going to get called on. And I've been trying to do my homework, and clearly conservation beats everything else out in terms of just volume of information. So knowing that in advance, you can prepare, because I'm thinking that's a lot to get thrown at you in a night. And Leah, I wanted to also ask you, what's your background, because you're so freaking smart.
Thank you. I have a BA in environmental science from Assumption.
Got it. You're good.
Thank you.
Good. So,
And I just, two things to add to what we've just been talking about. One is I do send a like welcome packet type email when we get new commissioners that will walk you through everything we're talking about, like Dropbox and where we meet and, you know, where you can get training and things like that. And the other thing is ahead of getting that email and getting access to Dropbox, you can see the documents the same way the public does, which is if you go on our page and you click on projects, each project that we talked about tonight has its own project page, and all the materials we have received are uploaded as attachments to those pages. So that's a lot of what, like, for instance, the folks on George Hill Road took a look at and then sent in email comments.
They seemed
to me.
very well informed. So that's why I was thinking, wow, there's a lot of smart people out there. And
So
I
that's-
must miss that. Yeah.
I was going to say, I've been on the first meeting that I was involved with as a commissioner was the first meeting that we did over Zoom. So I've met everyone on the commission through a meeting that I went to similar to this intro meeting for you. But so I'll be coming back into the fold just as you're starting it. So we'll both be new together. So
that will be awesome.
New in person. So
Yeah. I have to tell you, I'm kind of a little bit over Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved working remotely to the point where I knew I did not want to go back in an office and I didn't want to be traveling again, but I need to be around human beings. And so this is very one-dimensional.
I will say I'm going to miss the Zoom in February at 10 o'clock at night when I'm driving home from the municipal center. Just saying, that's just me.
No,
Sure.
I just think it's only across town.
It's got its pros and
But
cons.
it's so much further from my bed than my couch.
Exponentially.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you all taking the time with me. And again, I think this would be a great opportunity. And like I said, a way for me to sort of start paying forward for all the years I've been here and not been able to be involved. So, and hopefully you feel the same way, but thank you so much. And like I said, you're all really smart people, so I have a lot of work to do.
We put on a show. There's a lot of work that Leah and all the other people are doing in the background that it just, again, it really helps influence I wouldn't say influence our decisions. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying it gives us all that information in a very concise manner so we can,
so you can digest it, process it, and I get that. Well,
it helps a lot.
Well, thank you again, and I hope I get to see you again soon.
July
Thank
13th.
you.
July 13th, I'll put it on the calendar. Have a great night.
Thank you. You also.
Thanks. Take
Thank
care.
you, Betsy.
We need one more motion.
Motion to
motion.
close the hearing.
Or pick one of you. Just pick one of you.
I'll second Patrick's motion.
Okay, so Patrick made a motion to close the meeting. John seconded. Now we'll vote. Patrick,
I vote yes.
John,
Yes.
I also vote yes. And can the minutes please reflect that we really miss Sandy?
Yeah. I think
The recording has stopped.
Thank you for stopping the recording. I think that it would have been helpful to have her here, but I think we made it through just fine. We kept it moving, and I think that this is the type of meeting that if we have it in the town, in the municipal center, I feel like it'll be faster, but maybe not. I don't know.
No, we had this in the municipal. So if we had this meeting in the municipal center, it would have been more heated and confrontational. If I had to guess,
Probably.
in my experience in meetings like this, it would have been heated and confrontational, and there would have been voices raised. And
Yeah, the Zoom chat is one instance where it actually helps that you can't tell tone.
yeah,
You know, usually that's a bad thing, but this is like where it's a good thing. So you can just assume everyone's saying everything nicely.
yeah, because like it sucks to have to read through it just because it was all different people, all jumbled, and I was trying to keep it to one person at a time. But I couldn't have imagined if all these people were in the room confronting those people that appear to just be wanting to build a house and a place for their horses to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what, and maybe that's something that if we start to get a ton of questions, we can try and, I know that they have the right to come and speak and put their air, whatever they want to talk about, apparently. But it's just so many things in that list of chat where like select board or what all these other
Right.
things that are just nothing to do with us. So
And
it's
that's
like,
the only thing too, is that I think we have to read them because they're typed into the chat, because if the people were in the room, they would have said them out loud.
Right.
right.
So I had
We
to
would
keep
say-
going through it all. But
Right. No, I agree. There's no way to cut through that bureaucracy there, that red tape. So
I
but-
vote
Yeah, I mean,
July
from their-
should be Zoom if it's an option.
From their perspective too, they don't know where to go. They're just
Right.
trying to
True.
get it out there.
yeah, and I think it's our job at least to try and educate them that no, this is not the right forum, or maybe it's the Board of Health, or maybe it's something, but it's not this forum.
There's so many things that I've talked to people about in town too, and you talk to people and you just can't figure out where to go to resolve issues. So people have trouble, I think, figuring that out.
Well, if they-
Leah, do
if
we
they get
have,
notice, they just
when
want
they
to
can
go.
fill out that question form on our website, do we have like what's under the Conservation Commission's umbrella, like something on the website that kind of defines that?
I mean, in so many words, kind of. I put something more direct together.
Simple. I was going to say simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe just having that might be helpful.
If wherever they put their comment in, or their email to you, or their message, if it says a blurb that says, just remember, the conservation with wetland and, all these different bylaws and whatever, but it's directly related to wetland and stormwater. So then
Right.
if they say, well, there's traffic on the road, or there's too many cars parked there, then maybe they'll not type it in. But again, the public is the public. So
Yeah. One way.
I mean,
Go
it's
ahead.
sometimes useful to see the whole picture.
yeah. I felt
One-
bad. Sorry, go ahead, Leah.
One way that, sometimes you can get ahead of it a little bit is if before you open for public comment, you explain, I'm going to open for public comment. We deal with the following things. If you have other things, they go here, there, or everywhere, but of course they started typing tonight
I
before
was
we
just
even
going to
got
say,
to
they
that
started
hearing.
typing
So,
but maybe
yeah.
we could add some verbiage about that when we do the when we open the meeting.
Also true. Yeah.
We could say, we're going to, if you have comments, you can type them into the chat feature. However, please know that our jurisdiction includes If you have questions that are outside of the realm of our responsibilities, we will read them. However, we will not address them as part of this meeting.
Yeah.
Because then at least we're covered. So we can read it, and we don't even have to address, if we tell them we'll read it, but we won't address it, we can read it, say, this is not under our jurisdiction, and then just move right along to the next one.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I felt bad for the Boy Scout that came before us, whatever, last month, or the
Oh, I
month
know.
before, and all the people piled on them about, we were all very excited about this project. And,
Oh, the bridge.
Yeah,
I
the
thought
bridge.
that was ridiculous from that guy, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, it just kind of like, I think he got the point eventually, but it's like you're in the wrong forum and you're fighting against a Boy Scout that's trying to enhance a property. So
Right.
kind of
For free, by the way. The Boy Scout is
Right.
doing it, yeah.
own funds.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Did we ever I'm just wondering, we had someone that was gonna map all of the trails for the that on the properties that we owned like last year, but did that ever get done because of COVID?
The intern,
Yeah.
when we had an intern, that was a few summers ago.
No.
So
last year doesn't count.
So we had an intern who wandered around with, I forget if he ended up using the GPS like handheld unit we have, or if he ended up using one of the trail apps. But he did collect data. Where it stands right now is that he was like all inclusive in his data collection. So I can't just plop that on a map and push it out to the public, because he shows like what we talked about a meeting or two ago, where the trail forks off and goes onto private property and things like that. So it needs some editing and revising before it goes out to the public.
Okay.
Believe me, it is on the list of things I am more passionate about getting done. It's just, right now it's just me, and we got to do all this stuff we're legally required to do. But I haven't forgotten. I know we need trail maps. It's important.
Can we maybe make a social media post that we can share? Because I know like a lot of people started hiking last summer, school's getting out. It's something that people maybe still enjoy or looking to do this summer. Just letting them know that they can download the All Trails app.
Okay.
And if they want to hike any of our properties, they can get a list or put a link in the social media post that here's a link to all the properties. If you download the All Trails app, it can show you the trails. It's a great family activity.
Sure.
Because I know we had talked about doing some of that stuff at some of the community engagement events that they have, that who knows if they'll ever have again.
Sure, they will. I think a lot of that stuff is starting to start back up, So we've been doing the Boy Scouts and whatever, the Cub Scouts with Ollie, and we've been hiking and doing all these different little events and whatever. So they're starting. Some people wear masks, some people don't, and it's a pretty happy medium of people trying to get out of the house. So seems to be happening. Have we found a conservation assistant yet? I think you hinted at that earlier, Leah.
It's posted. We went through the internal posting. We didn't get any internal applicants, and then it went external last week, I think, and it's external till the 30th. And then I'll be reviewing what we get and going from there.
Cool. Hopefully we can get somebody to help you out.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. So. All right.
Sure is. But hey, we got the vacancy on the commission filled pretty quick, so that's cool.
Wow, this was super fast.
True.
When we've had vacancies open for a long time.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah, I gotta get some stuff done.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you all next month.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.